This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Well, it's a big day, Real Talkers. It's budget day, and this is Mark Carney's first as Prime Minister of Canada. We bring you a special episode of the show where we will talk, we promise, very little about the budget, John Hicks, because today this is one of the challenges the talk shows have. The day that a budget comes out and you're talking before the budget is out, it's a lot of speculation. It's a lot of musing around what the budget will entail. It's very similar to an election day episode where you don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
And you're talking about some of the stakes. You're talking about one of the, some of the key voter priorities and that sort of a thing. But it's always the episode after an election or the episode after a budget drops that's a big one. So we'll take this opportunity 30 seconds into the show to let Real Talkers know that on our next episode, we will offer comprehensive federal budget analysis, but all eyes on Ottawa right now.
And I can't wait to hear Eric Baruti's opinion on the budget. But we can talk about, some of the numbers. Is it 4 votes? I'm hearing 4 votes that they need.
Three they need from outside
from
the Liberal
opposite
caucus.
side. So 3 votes doesn't sound like a lot, but you've got this influx, this weird dynamic with the NDP. They've got a leadership problem. There could be some internal stuff there where they don't agree, and so we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, we had a really great, I thought, conversation. By the way, you're joking about Erica Baruti's on tomorrow, although not preposterous. We love having Erica on with her podcast partner, Cheryl Oates, but tomorrow we're partnering up with our friends at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce and the Alberta Chambers of Commerce, so we'll go back-to-back Jacks on special episode Real Talk Roundtables to get into, it's a themed episode. We're talking about jobs and the economy. The theme of this budget has been an interesting one because the Prime Minister's been talking about sacrifices. When a politician uses that word sacrifices, that means cuts. That means cost savings as they would present it to we the people. And he's also been floating the word, although not predominantly, the minute that a prime minister uses the word austerity, it's going to get people's attention.
It's a big word.
Cliff here in our live chat, powered by Park Power, already says if the feds slash 70,000 jobs, there's a bunch of numbers floating around out there. Cliff says if they slash 70,000 jobs, they're toast. And of course, you got to keep in mind that this budget not guaranteed to pass. Supriya Dwivedi, in our most recent episode, she joins us the first episode of every week. This week, that was November 3rd. Former senior advisor to the Prime Minister, Supriya comes in and talks to us about what's at stake, what the budget's going to look like, and the potential cost to Carney's minority government on using that word or invoking that word austerity, because it could scare off any NDP members of parliament that were considering voting. She says optically or otherwise, can they to their base justify supporting an austerity budget?
He's walking a fine line here. And,
Very fine line.
Conservatives don't like to hear this, but Carney is more conservative than the previous government. And when you hear things like cuts and things like that, they are right. They are right. A little righter than the last government was. And he's not playing the same game. So I guess that they tinkered with this budget a lot to try and make not everyone happy, but to get the votes they need and maybe even a few more just to show that, hey, they're playing everyone's game.
For sure. I would say if you haven't checked out, if you don't follow Real Talk RJ yet on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, if you don't follow me on Facebook or LinkedIn, I'm trying to think of all the places you can find us. We're all over the place. Make sure you do, and you can check out the short that Johnny put together following our conversation with Supriya yesterday. She kind of gets into the pace that a government, in particular minority government, might follow were it to be in a position, and any minority government would be, were it to be in a position where it needed votes outside its own caucus to win. And she was surprised that the interim leader, Don Davies of the NDP, had acknowledged or had basically gone public stating that he didn't even hear from the Prime Minister's office until the 21st of October with a budget set to come out on the 4th. She said that that's a very short period of time. She said as a tiger mom, she could not justify or condone it. She said that's not a lot of time for a government to give itself to bring votes on board that it needs.
Yeah, for people who don't know, a tiger mom is someone who aggressively pushes their kid to be higher education, smart, respectful. Like tiger moms are kind of like helicopter moms, only they're like, hey, you better,
a little more aggressive.
You better be a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist, all that stuff, right?
A little more aggro.
Yeah.
Boom Shanker X in our live chat. And guys, we're going to be giving the floor to you. We've got a ton teed up here. And we're going to get you an update, by the way, on that apology gate story, the apology that Mark Carney issued Donald Trump. Doug Ford has entered the chat.
Jesus.
And we got to hear this one too. I actually love what he had to say.
But
I imagine it's a huge headache for Carney.
All of a sudden, he's a staunch conservative. Like all of a sudden, out of
Ford
nowhere,
has been,
at the worst time when a deal hasn't been made. I say this though. Look at any country who has a good trade deal right now with the States. Nobody. So
True.
I don't think we're in a horrible position, but we're still in a position where we need to get a deal done. And I feel like Ford is he's inserting himself into this to make it. It's not going to be good.
But he's fighting. I mean, of all the provinces, Ontario's economy is the largest.
Of course,
and
yeah.
He's fighting for his auto sector. He's fighting for steel. He's fighting for all of the industries that
Pouring
have been impacted by
Crown
these
Royal.
tariffs. And he acknowledges, we'll play the clip for you. We're going to pull an extended one because I actually thought it's funny. I was sitting here, we're looking at it yesterday as he's in front of reporters, and his whole availability was like 5 minutes. And I'm watching it, and as we do, you look for like the real meat, right? You want like the 22 seconds that are the absolute best. And the more I'm watching, I'm like, it just keeps getting better and better. Well, he was just free flowing, and you're getting an insight into the mind of Ontario's premier. It's been Ford and Premier Danielle Smith in Alberta that have probably caused the biggest headaches for the Carney Liberals due to their advocacy, their unapologetic advocacy on behalf of their own provinces. Right. And so, the Ford clip, it just kept, in my mind, getting better and better. So we're going to bring that to you, put it in front of you, see what Real Talkers have to say about it. Boom Shanker X says, you guys, this is the problem with running deficits, right? When a budget comes out, says when it comes to paying the bills, nobody wants to make the sacrifice. And that's 100% true. Wise Kyle says Carney's walking like he has a majority. Carney did come in and say, when you start putting numbers in front of people start doing their own math. He said, right, that he figured, I'm going to paraphrase it, that he could trim about 15% out of the public service. If you look around any of your workplaces or you look at budgets that you're dealing with at your job, whatever they may be, if someone says we're going to cut 15%, you no doubt start looking at, well, what does that mean we're going to lose?
Yeah.
Or where are we going to have to make our tough decisions?
Definitely.
So people are going to have to make tough decisions. But if you want to reverse the trend on that Trudeau spending, then how are you going to do it? Now, people still won't be happy. And I'm sure that we'll hear from some of them tomorrow. It's going to be, business, jobs, and the economy that we're going to be talking about in that episode of the show. Today, we're also going to get to the New York City mayoral race. I saw Whitrium in here talking about, I said a shout out to Olivia Chow, mayor of Toronto, said Whitrium, and said, and the good people of New York, Whitrium says, let's go. Ma'am Danny's cheering, of course, for Zoran. Ma'am Danny, the 34-year-old.
I got to say, that's a great name.
Who was just, by the way, if you're parodied on the lead segment on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, yeah.
You have the world's attention.
Yeah, and we should talk about Cuomo as well, who even I notice. And, again, the everyday guy, not a huge politics guy, but following this and just looking at the debates, he's going after the number 3 guy when, you're supposed to be taking out Zoran. You're supposed to be going against number 1, and it feels like he's attacking the number 3. What's number 3 guy? See, I don't know.
Yeah, you're talking about Curtis Sliwa,
yeah,
the guardian
angel. Why are you going after Curtis, man? He's not the guy you're trying to beat here. It's confusing.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how election strategy plays out. We even saw it in our municipal elections in our home province of Alberta just a couple of weeks ago as everything was unfolding and campaigns were kind of hitting those final gears, and you saw which mayoral candidates, for example, were targeting which other ones.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them seem to be a bit curious, but the campaigns have done their math. They figure that they know where they can gain those votes. Tony here, by the way, in our live chat says, of course, Mark Carney's more small c conservative than small L liberal, but the Conservative Party needs a bad guy for their ongoing crying sessions. Well, we're going to hear from Pierre Poilievre, no doubt, after that budget drops today, and we'll have clips ready, of course, for that for you tomorrow. Pierre Poilievre, you can bet your bottom dollar, will be ensuring that none of his Conservative MPs are voting to support this budget.
Yeah.
The Conservatives would love to see another election.
Of course. But, okay, if this happens, are we voting? We're going to find out around Christmas, and then right after Christmas we're going to vote? I don't think anyone wants to do that.
We could be voting before Christmas if you look at the timeline on how it could be. If the government loses confidence, then it's time to go back to the polls. And, we did a little bit of, we chewed the fat on this yesterday on who stands to lose the most or who stands to gain the most in that hypothetical. If Canadians are forced back to the polls on what would be another, it was $570 million back at the end of April, another $500 million election. I guess money's not the top concern in that circumstance, but let's never lose perspective. Let's never lose perspective on how much $570 million is.
Yeah.
But $500 million election, would middle of the road or undecided voters look at this and say Carney's had his chance, he wasn't able to pull anything off? Maybe it's time to give a shot to Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, or do people look and say, like you did 2 minutes ago, really nobody has struck a meaningful deal with Donald Trump. Carney's kept the economy from imploding amid turbulence, and we got to give him more time. That would essentially be what people are deciding.
But if you line up the points, like the top three things I would think would be, obviously our relationship with the United States going into the last election was rocky, carbon tax, which kind of equates to, cost of living. And then after that, I don't know. But like Carney got rid of the carbon tax, right? I think Pierre would have done that as well. So that's kind of moot. And then our relationship with the states, we already know Donald Trump does not like Pierre Poilievre. So I really don't know what switching up our guy now would do for us for, the major points that everyone wants addressed.
Yeah. Dubious, by the way, pointing out it's not just Tiger Moms, says Tiger's dad was the lunatic who pushed him to golf as a toddler.
There
that is
go.
true.
Tiger
Earl
Dad.
Woods.
Tiger
the
Dad.
story of Earl Woods is actually pretty bonkers. Tracy D says, I've been told more than once. Interesting. Well, I didn't. Let's read this. She says she's heard that the phrase Tiger Mom is actually considered really offensive to Asian communities. Interesting.
I would say third point, sorry, I forgot it there, would be immigration. Also, he's, Carney's trying to curb immigration now. He cut down on, the students that are coming in or whatever. And
he's cut immigration across the board.
Cut it across the board. So I just don't see what switching up the main guy would do. I don't know if that's going to all of a sudden give us a better hand at the table.
Yeah. Boomshanker following up and saying, guys, the private sector is losing jobs all over the place. What makes anybody think that it should be or it's going to be any different for government? Justin, thanks for your YouTube channel membership. Justin says it must be nice to be immune to consequences like Premiers Smith and Ford. The UCP firing another auditor general over the health scandal report. Par for the course, says, but I am so tired of this. Justin does. Hey, let's make sure that we remind people before we really dig in that this episode of Real Talk is happening with the support, the presenting sponsorship of our friends at Hanson Distillery. Real Talk, real spirits. Hanson Distillery is Edmonton's original distillery, rooted in prairie grit and a rebellious spirit. I kind of like that. Prairie grit, rebellious spirit. What a nice fit. They're known for authentic small batch whiskey, vodka, gin, moonshine, and unique liqueurs like this Northern Eyes cherry whiskey, crafted right here in the capital city with local Alberta ingredients. Every bottle of Hanson tells a story of true passion and heritage and hands-on craftsmanship. You can raise a glass to Real Talk and Real Spirits. Visit them in person. If you're in the Metro Edmonton region, they've got that beautiful distillery on 174th Street, 111th Ave. Or you can check out their latest creations in Alberta liquor stores. You can also find them online and learn more about their process. We got some beautiful videos their team's put together at HansonDistillery.com. Hanson Distillery is proudly local, always original, made right here.
Budget day, I love a budget day. And I would say the number one thing Albertans are thinking about when they think of a leader is the relationship, obviously, with the province. And again, there's something Carney has kind of made headway with. We're talking, a dozen days here till there's supposed to be some sort of announcement on pipelines in some aspect. We still don't know what it's going to be. Grey Cup on the 16th. So, again, I don't know what switching up would do to get us any further.
We got an interesting point here from Semper Fi Danny in that Powered by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider. Says, depending on how the Supreme Court rules on tariffs in the U.S., plus how the midterm election polling goes, and that's upon us. I mean, this news cycle's been nuts this year. Danny says this delay in trade talks may actually benefit Canada. Doug Ford may have done us a solid. That from Danny. Okay, interesting point. Well, why don't we get to this? In case you missed it, so you know the background, right? If you watch the show, if you've been paying attention to the news cycle, the Ontario government invests like $70 million in running ads to influence Americans. Political ads quoting Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan talking about tariffs. They run in the United States during the first number of games, first couple of games of the World Series, and Donald Trump's super pissed off about it. So he basically says that trade talks are off, says that he doesn't even want to talk to Mark Carney. This is as both of them were over in Malaysia and then South Korea, said that trade talks are off, said they're misrepresenting what Ronald Reagan's position was, says Ronald Reagan loved tariffs. You're about to hear from the president himself. And so he's asked about it. He's asked about those trade talks. He's asked about the ad campaign on Air Force One. This is just a couple of days ago. And here's what the President of the United States had to say about it.
On Venezuela,
Yeah, please.
what did you talk about with Prime Minister Carney? Are you and Canada going to resume negotiations?
No, but I have a very good relationship. I like him a lot. But you know what they did was wrong. He was very nice. He apologized for what they did with the commercial. Because it was a false commercial. You know, it was the exact opposite. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs. And they tried to make it look the other way. And he did apologize, and I appreciated it. We had a great dinner, you know, with other countries, as you know. And I think we have a very good relationship personally. I think that what they did was wrong, but he apologized.
Okay, so then everybody kind of goes, "Oh, really? Like, did Mark Carney really apologize for this Reagan ad? Is it true?" And so then Carney, after speaking to an international audience, is asked about it and offers confirmation. I don't know that anybody would be blown away by this, but an apology, like clarification is one thing. We discussed it is another thing. Did he actually apologize? Well, here's what Mark Carney said.
Did you apologize to Donald Trump about Ontario's anti-tariff ad?
I did. I did apologize to the president. President was offended by the act, or by the ad, rather. And it's not something I would have done, which is to put in place that advertisement. And so I apologized to him.
Okay. So then everybody goes, apologized.
Please, sir.
Maybe have some more
I'm sorry.
trade talks. And so then now everybody's waiting to hear from Ontario's Premier Doug Ford to know, well, what did that conversation sound like? Like, you know, Carney kind of big dogs Ford, like we were joking about with Supriya, and basically says, yeah, that's not something I would have done. And Supriya points out on our show, she goes, yeah, but like the Prime Minister is not the Premier's boss, right? It's one thing if your boss hauls you into their office and says, yeah, that email you sent that client, that's not something I would have done, right? But this isn't the case. Doug Ford's his own guy. He's accountable to his own electorate. He's the Premier of Ontario. He is elected to fight for Ontario's interests. And so everybody's wondering, Doug Ford, never shy, typically fairly strong in his conviction and kind of coming across as the everyman, whether he is or not. Remember, he's the buck of beer guy. He's like the guy that shoots from the hip. He's the guy that says what he thinks. So everybody, including us, are waiting to hear what he's going to say when asked about this. In particular, when asked about the Prime Minister's, what do you want to call it? Well, the Prime Minister's not exactly impressed, right? The Prime Minister's unimpressed. And how does Doug Ford feel about it? And the $70 million ad campaign in general. The clip's a little longer than we'd normally play. It's about 3 minutes, but I think it's worth every single second. I hope you'll agree. Here's Doug Ford just hours before we're doing this show.
Well, I'm not going to get into he said, back and forth. I don't think the people of Canada want that. I know one thing, we're united on getting a deal. I have asked them to focus on many areas, but especially on the auto sector, and I know he's doing his best to get that back to the table.
You don't want to correct the public record here? The Prime Minister says he had to apologize, and he said that he asked you specifically not to run the commercial.
Well, again, I'm not going to go back and forth. Had a different recollection of our conversation, but that's, you know, people don't need that. They want to move forward, to get a deal, to protect jobs and protect the economy of Ontario and of Canada.
So you don't remember him saying no?
No, again, I'm not going down that avenue. I know I've talked to him this morning through text message. We have a great relationship. We're focused on the same areas, and that's protecting Canadian jobs, Ontario jobs, the steel sector, the auto sector, life sciences, and manufacturing.
Are you able to share your recollection, Premier? What's your
Again, I'm just not going to go down that avenue. I'm not jumping into that bear trap. We have a great relationship. I'll tell you one thing, what he did do. He called me from Asia a couple times and said, pull the ad. And I said I wasn't going to do it until we're going to pause the ad on Monday. And that's exactly what we did. It was 12.4 billion impressions around the world. And they talked about it on the Senate floor. I love the fact that 4 Republicans jumped over and voted against tariffs on Canada. So they were very effective, and they ended up getting rejuvenating the talks with the Democrats and Republicans down in the U.S. that a tariff on Canada is a tax on American people.
What was the Prime Minister's tone when he asked you a couple of times to pull the ad? Was he personally angry with your actions?
No, he wasn't angry at all. I fully understand the position he's in. He's trying to talk to the president. But the president was going to give us a terrible deal, like they gave UK a terrible deal, gave Japan even a worse deal, in my opinion. And we weren't going to go down that rabbit hole of getting a terrible deal. I always say no deal is better than a bad deal. And that's what President Trump wants. He wants a terrible deal for Canadians. I take a different approach. I want the AmCan fortress, American-Canadian fortress, that we can grow the pie, create more jobs, just like Ronald Reagan did. Jobs went up in a massive way when he signed the deal with Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, and we're asking to do the same thing. Tariffs do not work anywhere in the world. They especially don't work with your number one customer, and yes, they're our number one customer. So let's grow the pie, as I always say.
But do you think he should have apologized, or are you upset that he apologized?
Well, that's up to the Prime Minister. I'll tell you what I would do. I'd never apologize to Donald Trump. Donald Trump's trying to destroy our province, destroy our country, steal manufacturing jobs and auto sector jobs, steel jobs, aluminum jobs. The list keeps going on. I'll never apologize to President Trump, and I'm going to continue fighting for the people of Ontario and the people of Canada.
Did the Prime Minister give you a heads up that he was going to apologize?
No, he didn't. But that's his prerogative, right? I don't speak for the Prime Minister. I speak as the Premier of Ontario, and I'll never apologize to Donald Trump ever. They put me on a stretching rack. I wouldn't apologize. No, it doesn't. That's something the Prime Minister is doing the best he can for the country. He has the best interests of the country at heart, and he's trying to work with 13 different premiers across the board.
So, my favorite part. You could put me on a stretching rack.
Medieval.
And I would never apologize. Like, not every politician's going to pull out a line like that, but that's Dougie Ford in Ontario. So making no bones about the fact that, he's in a luxury position. Premiers are under a lot of pressure to try to protect their own industries. No premier wants to see, when it comes to like these premier approval ratings that we'll talk about, every couple of months on the show, or you'll look at like GDP growth, or you'll look at like employment numbers province by province. No premier wants to see their province lose 3,000 jobs in a quarter, or lose 600 jobs in a month, or whatever the case may be. And so obviously standing up for his own sectors, but using language that you would never hear or probably would rarely hear. You got to be careful these days with politics because everything's a little bit different with Trump in the mix, but you're not going to hear Mark Carney say Donald Trump wants a, quote, terrible deal, and he's, quote, trying to destroy our country and steal our jobs, right? That's the luxury that a premier has. The Prime Minister is not in a position to do that. But I didn't mind Doug Ford's sort of apologetic nature to that. And also, what discipline, what self-discipline to not take the bait like 3 or 4 times in a row. Those reporters, I'm not going to say they're trying to manufacture a beef between Ontario's Premier and the Prime Minister of Canada, but they're definitely trying to get the goods on what did it sound like off the record when you two talked.
Well, it's already a beef. I wish I could be a fly on the wall when they had that speakerphone call or whatever, whether it was, a lead from a team to the other team or whether it was the two of them. But if I'm Carney, I'm pissed off. Sure, go into an interview, say what you want about Trump. You've got a big economy there in Ontario. I love Ontario. I'm from Ontario. I'm a big pusher of Ontario. But the ad was a little too far because I don't see what the win is with the ad. The ad seems like, it seems like a shot in Trump's arm, and it doesn't make him reverse his opinion on anything. It doesn't make him reverse tariffs. It ignites his anger. And to do it behind the prime minister's back and to release it. And then when he said, hey, this is a shitty time to do this, I'm trying to get a deal done, and to say, no, we're going to keep it up. I just don't see where the win was for Ford other than with his constituents.
Well, I mean, but there you go. That's exactly, you
all
just
it
answered
is.
your
That's all
question,
it is.
right? You
But
know?
he can do that in interviews. He just did it eloquently, like you said, avoiding taking the bait, gave his opinion. We already know his opinion on Trump as well. But the ad just seems like it's just going to ignite a fire. And if that's what he was trying to do, well, yeah, you did it. Job accomplished.
Yeah, this has been the complaint for anybody that's taken a look. In particular, these two premiers, they're not the only ones that have advocated for their provinces. David Eby has been outspoken. Wab Kinew has been outspoken.
I don't know how I feel
there
about
have been
it, though.
others. But you've got Smith and Ford that are like, listen, I mean, Danielle Smith, I would say almost to Alberta's detriment. Has been, we've done a couple of shows back to back on energy, the economy, a great interview yesterday, I thought, on carbon capture and storage on the heels of our Friday roundtable on energy, the environment, and the economy. So kind of doing a deep dive into that. The Smith government, the UCP, obviously going to the wall to protect Alberta's oil and gas sector. I mean, she spent the last week or so in the Middle East, right? Nowhere near, she flew to Saudi Arabia right after teachers were ordered back to work. Everybody knows that. That's her number one priority. That's her top priority. She's sending that message loud and clear. If I'm an Alberta ag producer, I'm probably wondering where my support is. I'm probably wondering why she's not down in Wisconsin, Nebraska, talking about exports down there, maybe talking about the dairy business, maybe talking about canola producers. If I work in Alberta tech or AI or any other sector, commercial real estate, I'm probably wondering where the public show of support is there. But the premiers have picked their horses. How many times did Doug Ford mention manufacturing, auto, steel? I mean, that's who's getting hammered by tariffs. That's who they're defending. But it does put a lot of pressure. And like Ford said, the reason we kept that back part of the clip in, I mean, the stretching rack, of course, was the highlight.
I hear the crank.
But he says, listen, and he acknowledges, this prime minister's got to, deal with 13 different premiers, and they've all got different priorities.
Yeah, it's like a dad trying to keep his kids in line when they're the O'Doyles or something, and they want to go out and just rage and fight. Look,
O'Doyle rules.
I like when the premier here in Alberta advocates for Alberta industry. I like when Doug Ford voices his opinions on, the economy in Ontario and how it's, part of the biggest part of the engine, all of that. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, can you guys just stick to doing sports bets between like governors and premiers? Can we not? Because I really feel like the prime minister should be, I don't want to use the word gatekeeper, but the mediator when this stuff happens. Like, it's not your job as a premier to go down to the States and do things like that unless it's in the context of getting a deal done, and then the prime minister should be involved. Like, that's a national, international, whatever you want to say, issue. And I especially when it affects things negatively. Like, don't get me wrong, I love that Ford is standing up for Ontario, but I just feel like he just put a wedge in between this whole thing that we're trying to get done with the states. And again, I'll say it, nobody has a good deal with the states right now. So to say that, hey, Carney hasn't gotten a deal, nobody's gotten a good deal done with the states. Everyone's getting screwed by the states right now. So it's not Carney who's failing. If you want to say that, everyone's failing against Trump. And that's because Trump is just a tumultuous tornado.
Yeah. It's like, are they failing or are they just keeping the, I remember one of the greatest experiences of my life was fishing off Prince Rupert, BC. It's an absolutely stunning part of the country. and you're up at 5 and the boat's out at 6 and lines in the water at 6:30 and you're back at 6. And I mean, it's just unbelievable. 40-pound salmon, 80-pound halibut, snapper, like just a wonderful day. Lingcod, just incredible. But you get out, like you get about an hour offshore and you realize that the ocean is a whole different animal out there. And these fishing boats, these vessels, are obviously capable, but it's still a pretty wild ride when those ocean swells start to go. And I remember thinking at certain points with a capable captain, all the captain's got to do right now is just keep us above water. Yeah. Just keep us afloat. Yeah. We're not looking to land a trophy salmon right at this very minute. I'm just looking to not capsize and go down. 2 points to Jespo for that metaphor on the fly. Sharon says, I love that, Dougie. Others of you are saying, who is this? One of you said, this was Aaron, says, good boy, Ford. Says, I'm always surprised when I clap for Ford. She says, 10 years ago, that would have never happened. Meantime, others are saying, I don't even know if this, like Dubia says, I'm not even entirely sure that Doug Ford is actually opposed to Donald Trump. This could be sort of an IDU, that's kind of a Stephen Harper reference, an IDU orchestrated theater in order to give Trump a reason. Says all of these conservatives are IDU.
I really don't like the good boy reference in any conversation context.
Why not?
It either makes me think of like giving a dog a treat, like you're talking down to someone, or like a sexual context in the bedroom. So let's just keep the good boy out of there.
I feel like you just took it there. I don't know that the average person was there with that one, but shout out to Johnny for taking us there.
It rubs me the wrong way when I hear it.
Yeah, Alberta. Amazing. Alberta Girl says, now I'm picturing a ball gag, a leash. Bring out the gimp. Alberta Girl says, Trump's team is stringing Canada along. That ad was appropriate. Like Ford said, Trump is not currently interested in negotiating a fair deal with Canada, period. So elbows up. That from Alberta Girl. You know what I did love from Dougie Ford there is when he talked about the Amcan Fortress.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If that's something, like if you look at what resonates with Trump, right? Like the Department of War or the Golden Dome, the missile defense.
Yeah.
I think the Amcan Fortress is something that may resonate
like
with him.
G.I. Joe or something.
But he would change the name. If it was not his idea, he would change the name. But I think he would probably keep Fortress there as well. Wanted to touch on a couple of things. We always want to have a show where it's real talk. We'll talk about the stuff. Ms. KD wondered earlier, why was that comment about Tiger Mums just blown over? Not just blown over, like number one, wanted to put it on the record and wanted to read it. And number two, Supriya is the one that dropped it. So I'm not, like, as a white guy, I'm not going to sit here and get into it. But like Supriya is of South Asian heritage. And I don't know, I guess we could ask her next week if she finds it to be offensive. But I take the point, and when we, know better, what is it? When we know better, we do better. Right? Isn't that what we say? When we know better, we do better. So, we won't invoke the phrase, but it was Supriya that used it. But I appreciate putting it on the record. Maybe we all just learned something today. Meta Modern Sounds is also in our live chat and says, it'd be really cool if we could talk about personal friend of Ryan's, Queen Marlena, just defunding recalls and referendums. Nah, shouldn't risk not having access anymore, right? Guys, I am so sorry that my successful talk show career put me on the same pundit bench and on the same airwaves as Danielle Smith, who rose to become Premier of Alberta. I am so sorry that for 15 years we did shows together and traveled together and knew each other, and I just have to completely apologize. I'm sure you've never had this situation in your life where somebody that you have a personal connection to has gone on to do things that have upset other people, and then people look to you as though it's your fault. I am so sorry, guys, and and the next time she comes on the show, what I'll probably do is just go up one side of her and down the other, just to make sure that, the next time we ask, for example, for the Liberal Prime Minister to come in, they will definitely come in if we do that. But in all reality, to be serious for a second, number one, it is true. Yesterday, in these are very boring committee meetings. These aren't in question period where everyone's banging on the desks and shooting zingers across at one another. The UCP did deny the Chief Electoral Officer supplemental budget to prepare a referendum on Alberta's future in Canada, and NDP MLA David Shepherd in particular was none too impressed about it. This is probably actually, I saw Thomas Lukazik, I won't say crowing about it, but he noted it on his social media feeds, talking, he's basically saying, so I guess this means we won't be getting that referendum, which is music to Thomas's ears. He told us as much. He doesn't want to see a referendum. He went out and got almost 500,000 signatures, trying to basically put a hurdle up in the way of the Alberta Prosperity Project, let's call it the Alberta Separatist Movement. He wanted to get there first. He wanted to get the 300,000 signatures that he needed before Smith's number dropped down to 170,000. You guys remember that solid that the Premier did, the Separatists, to make it a little bit easier for them to trigger a referendum. The Chief Electoral Officer will not have the supplemental budget to make that happen. For anybody that doesn't want the referendum, this is great news. I'm on different lines. I say bring it on. I want to see a referendum. I want to see the number. Thomas and I got into it last week. You can check out that episode. He's obviously very articulate. He obviously knows what he's talking about. Thomas describing the referendum process as expensive and polarizing, and he's not wrong about that. My standing on it, my position on it, is that until we get numbers, until you put it to the people and we know what the numbers look like, everyone's going to continue to speculate. And the separatists are confident that they have the numbers. They're confident that more than half of Albertans would vote to leave. I am confident that it's not close to that. I don't think it's a joke. I don't think it's 0%, but I don't think it's 50% plus one or more than that. And I think that the only way to settle it is to give the people what they want. Pursue a referendum. Roll it out. Let's see the numbers. Let's take a look at what the scoreboard says.
Sure, I guess. And I guess Thomas has made way for that. If you want to... people are debating this online right now. Was the Forever Canada, petition good or bad? I think we needed to see it, though. Whether you think it's going to trigger a referendum or trigger a vote or some kind of petition on whether we should separate, we've already seen like 500,000 people in Alberta. I mean, that's a huge number. And if it was online or if you had to go to a poll at a school near your house and vote, if you had to go to a box, I think that number would be 2, 3, 4. I think it would be huge. So it's kind of a catch-22. But, again, referring to Erica Barudis and our friends on the Discord, they were talking about this, and Erica was gleaming ear to ear that, and I don't want to say it, well, I will say it. She said that Thomas had a shit-eating grin the morning that he dropped off those boxes to the premier because she thinks he was doing exactly the opposite of what he wanted to do. But, hey, if we were headed that way anyways, at least now we know that I think the majority of people would say, no, this isn't what we want.
Justin is 100% in our live chat, and he says, I'm sure, Jespo, that some people that felt really confident that Brexit would never happen said the exact same thing, Jespo. And Justin, you're absolutely right. And that is something that we have to heed. I would also hope that the Brexit example would serve as a warning to Albertans that would be pursuing this. But not everyone's convinced. I appreciate different perspectives listening to this show. Walkin' Campbell's cat in our live chat, powered by Park Power, says the people will be heard. Alberta independence 2026. Goes on to say the numbers are a lot bigger than you think, Ryan. Alberta independence 2026. See, here's the thing, is like Walkin' Campbell's cat, number one. I bet if you and I were in a room together, we'd probably have a beer together and talk it out. I have no doubt about that. There's people I care about that feel very different than me about this. And guess what? We're all saying the exact same thing. The separatists are pretty sure their numbers are bigger than everybody thinks. Those that believe strongly, like me, that Alberta should remain in Canada and that, it's a very important and beautiful and mutually beneficial relationship, that it's an honor to be a contributing province, a have province in an incredible country like Canada, would also probably believe that their numbers are maybe significantly higher than they may prove to be. And there's only one way to tell. And, people will say, well, what about the stakes? What happens if it goes sideways? What happens if Alberta votes 55% to leave? What happens then? Do we think that the sentiment is going away if we don't have the referendum? Do we think that people are all of a sudden just going to pack up the tents in the highway rest stops and stop the protests, right? I don't think that anybody's going to just walk away from this.
Yeah, all the polling we've seen, though, is that we see the majority of people are in opposition to separation. And people are saying, the numbers are bigger than you think. You could say that every day, all the time. Show me numbers. Like, this is what the Forever Canada petition showed. It showed that the numbers are exactly the other way. So it's kind of pie in the sky.
Giants for Life is wondering, would you leave #Berta? Ryan, by the way, if you missed it, our vote, I don't know if I get to loop you in on this, but certainly my vote for the new Alberta license plates is just Berta across the bottom. I think it'd be unbelievable. Would I leave Alberta if Alberta were to leave Canada? It's a really great question. I mean, I think it would tear my heart out. I don't really know where else in Canada I'd want to live. But it'd be a difficult decision. I think I'm gonna decline to answer at this point because I don't believe that my mind is made up. But I would be nervous. I'd be really nervous about the future of Alberta industry. I'd be I'd be concerned about the future of Alberta real estate. I'd be concerned about the future of international investment in Alberta, which is key to continuing to build our industries and to maximize our potential. I'd be concerned about some of the beliefs that Alberta industry would be better off, like, for example, with exports. were we to leave, I'd be petrified, quite honestly.
Well, if it's like you're saying, you're alluding to 55%, I say we just split the province and we do it top to bottom. We get the urban areas at the bottom, Calgary and Edmonton. They can have Fort McMurray, and we'll call it a day.
We're not giving away Fort McMurray. Are you kidding me? That's Fort McMurray's the golden goose, dude. We're not giving away Fort McMurray.
Well, I don't want to split it down the middle.
You know what we'll
because
do?
The
And no
separatists
offense,
would want the side that's closer to Saskatchewan, and that's Edmonton and Calgary, so we can't do
well,
that.
I think we just give them the other half. No offense, guys, but we give them the other half of Lloydminster. Okay. They can. It's already there. It's already, it's pretty simple.
It would be better for us to be closer to to be on the side that's closer to BC. But they would want the side closer to Saskatchewan. And so, maybe we'd split it diagonally, or we'd box it up, or what?
Mark says, when will somebody conduct an impartial, non-speculative analysis of the pros and cons of separation without hype? Is it even possible to do so? Mark, I don't want to get too far ahead of us, and I will not announce events that I may be hosting before the events are confirmed, but I can tell you I'm working with a reputable Alberta-based group to hopefully roll out a public event in November that will feature that exact type of debate. And so, again, he says non-speculative analysis. This would be a debate format, but I think it's going to be an excellent one. And when I have more details, when it's confirmed, when I've put pen to paper, I'm going to let you know more about it. Giants for Life says Balzac is booming. We're not giving away Balzac. So there you go. Balzac is just so fun to say. I think that's why a lot of people are getting into that. We've got more to come on this episode of the show. Hey, if for those of you that are either watching our Real Talk live stream on any of the social media platforms or on YouTube presented by California Closets, you see I'm rocking my Relentless sweatshirt today. Of course, that's a tip of the cap and a big shout out to our friends at UCAN Youth Services, and in particular, their Relentless outreach workers. This organization, absolutely phenomenal, reaching out to young people age 12 to 17. This is the EPS Top 50 list. So these are the 50 young people that are most interacting with Edmonton Police Service. Not in a good way, but the outreach workers at UCAN Youth Services are empowering these young people in making positive, healthy, and life-changing decisions. You can learn more about the Relentless Outreach Program on their website, UCAN.ca. They're helping get some young people back in school. For others, it's getting them a job, helping them address things like low commitment to employment or poor attitude or job performance if they're even showing up. A lot of times the family factors are at play, and it can be heartbreaking. Peer groups, in some cases, these kids, and to get real for a second, they're targets of human trafficking. They're being targeted by gangs. There's individual factors like defining one's identity through violence, societal factors, alienation, poverty. Well, Relentless outreach workers are aiming to reduce the incidence of disruption and really help these young people turn their lives around. You can learn more about the program at ucan.ca, and if you're able, consider a donation today. A monthly donation would be incredible. We believe in UCAN Youth Services. We're proud to partner with them. Again, you can check them out online at ucan.ca. The Helm Clothing is where, Johnny, can I say it's where you and I go? I know that you were in there just the other day. We love this place, just a couple of blocks from our studio. A beautiful 3-story retail shopping experience in downtown Edmonton, but you can also find them online at thehelmclothing.com. If you check out their website right now, you'll see a $100 gift you can claim. Johnny's showing you their beautiful, a 3-story retail location.
It is, man. You walk in there and it's like an experience. When you go to buy clothes, you want it to be an experience. You want it to feel like you're going through an experience to get dressed. And this is just like, it is a huge walk-in closet.
And when you're investing in it, too, you want to know that you're not going to look like a fool. I always trust their team there, starting at the top with Chad Helm. I'm just walking in. I'm like, here's the event I'm going to, or here's the occasion, and please help me look good. On the website right now, this is a promotion exclusive to Real Talkers. If you do your shopping online at thehelmclothing.com, the promo code REALTALK, all one word, Real Talk, will knock 10% off your entire order. Get that, plus free shipping for all orders over $500 North America wide. Again, that's Real Talk, the promo code at thehelmclothing.com. As mentioned, our friends at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce will be forming one of 2 post-budget Real Talk roundtables on our next episode of the show. And, of course, that's just the beginning of their advocacy. If you go to edmontonchamber.com, you can learn more. They'll be unveiling officially their State of the Economy report on November 7th. You're going to hear about it first here on Real Talk. And then on November 7th this week, join the Edmonton Chamber at the JW Marriott as they unveil the first ever comprehensive economic scorecard of the Metro Edmonton region, including experts Mark Parsons from ATB Financial, Doug Griffiths, our president and CEO at the Edmonton Chamber, Heather Thompson, VP there at the Chamber, and Brandon McComas from Resonance. He's the research director there. They'll unpack Edmonton's growth trajectory, workforce realities, affordability pressures, plus the shifting balance between the city core and the suburbs. You can learn more about the event. Get your tickets today at edmontonchamber.com. And our friends at Friesen Brothers, as they celebrate 70 years, still family-owned, reminding you, of course, that this winter, the butchers at Friesen Brothers. The butchers are like the foundation upon which this empire was built. They've crafted something truly special this winter. Johnny, sun-dried tomatoes, fresh turkey, and simple ingredients come together in their sun-dried tomato turkey sausage, full of flavor, and of course only while the season is cold. So this is for a limited time only. You can pick up a pack from their butcher shop today or learn more at Friesen.com. You can go to their website and then you just click on the butcher shop. You'll find everything you need there. Friesen Brothers is proudly Alberta grown and Alberta owned.
Tony in our live chat wondering about, I know this is off topic, but these recall efforts for the MLAs going on in Alberta. I did actually read this morning.
There's like more than 20 of them.
The only reason I'm mentioning it because I read this morning, Calgary Herald was saying Elections Alberta confirmed the recall petition for Airdrie East MLA Angela Pitt. It's going to be approved tomorrow. And then in Calgary Bow, of course, you got Jenny. Is it Yermy? Am I pronouncing that right? She's leading Yermy. She's leading the charge to
She's
recall.
She's been on the show before.
Yeah, to recall the education minister. We don't know the numbers yet. They're trying to get 16,000 signatures, but they got 1,000 in the first week, so no update there.
Yeah, the Calgary Herald has done, Noah Brennan gets the shout out on this, has done some reporting on this, and, the different petitions could gain different momentum. Like you said, Angela Pitt, Dimitrios Nicolaitis, Rajan Sani has been targeted. I know Rebecca Schultz is being targeted by this, and you can read more about it. But for a lot of people, this reporting by Noah Brennan, he speaks to an Albertan, Melissa Craig, who said the Back to School Act, Bill 2, when teachers were ordered back, when the government invoked the notwithstanding clause, says that was what sort of tipped her. That was her tipping point when in Calgary Northwest, when she decided to pursue the petition to recall Rajan Sani. Of course, this bill, we don't have to tell this audience, ended that 3-week teachers strike. This Albertan, Craig, says, to me, quote, that was completely trampling over democracy in any right. And I'm not surprised to see it. Like, we've, as mentioned, have been trying to get to as many emails as we can, Real Talkers, because and when I say like a record-setting amount of emails, I'm talking like actually by the numbers. When this show is pretty new, we launched November 23rd of 2020.
Ooh, coming up on it.
Coming up on 5 years, buddy. In early January, that was this Aloha Gate. You guys may remember under Premier Jason Kenney. And remember, we were like right in the trenches in COVID, and travel advisory, like basically travel bans were in place, and governments were asking people, while you could travel in some circumstances, it was possible, they were asking you not to and advising against it. And then it turned out that a bunch of Jason Kenney's MLAs, including cabinet ministers, were going to like Arizona and Hawaii. You remember this, and it blew up into a big thing. And we had received hundreds of emails. And for a startup like us at that point, the show was like 6 weeks old. It was overwhelming. It was bonkers. The number of emails that we've received related to the teacher strike and the notwithstanding clause, the Back to School Act, have greatly superseded that, easily over 1,000 emails. And a lot of them have been you CCing us on your correspondence to your elected officials. And these are the ones that really jump out at me. So like this one, for example, from Casey, who wrote out to Ron Weeb and wrote to the Grand Prairie Wapiti riding, said, I am writing you, Mr. Weeb, as a constituent who is deeply disturbed and disgusted by the Alberta government's recent decision to invoke the notwithstanding clause to end the teachers' strike. It undermines the fundamental rights and freedoms that Canadians hold dear, and this use of Such a powerful tool should be reserved for the most exceptional circumstances. I do not believe, said Casey, that this situation justifies its application. Sean CC'd us on an email to Peace River, and in particular to Minister Dan Williams. Said, Mr. Williams, this was on Tuesday, the 28th of October, said, you had the chance yesterday, first day back, you had the chance yesterday to stand up for your constituents, to stand up for Alberta students for what is right by voting against Bill 2. Instead, said Sean, writing in from Grimshaw, you showed everyone that you would, Grimshaw is another great community name, isn't it? Grimshaw, that just sounds awesome. Says you showed everyone you would rather keep your minister's salary and your position in the UCP cabinet. You voted for a bill that removes the fundamental rights of teachers. Who's your next target? That from Sean. Mikelle wrote in, Strathcona Sherwood Park, Minister Nate Glubish. And a lot of these, by the way, if I can say, like Rajan Sani is an example, Nate Glubish is another example. These are kind of like middle of the road. I wouldn't call them progressive conservatives. It's up to them, I guess, to define where their political leanings are. But these are not like the far right members of the UCP cabinet or caucus, right? This is like something that's impacting the middle of the road, pragmatic. Like, if you ever talked to Minister Glubish in person, really reasonable guy, actually has a great reputation in the industries that he's represented, including tech, AI, and others. So this is where they start to feel the pressure. When you start to talk about like caucus revolt, or when you start to talk about, you know, a premier can lose the support of her caucus, this is where that starts, where like the I hate to say normal, but like the middle of the road, kind of steady Eddie type politicians are starting to get angry emails like this one. Mikelle writes into Minister Glubish, says, I'm writing to express my deep concern about passing Bill 2 in the ledge, the use of the notwithstanding clause. Says Mikelle, I agree that a solution needed to be reached in order to get the teachers back to work. However, I vehemently disagree with the way that the government has gone about this. The government should be ashamed of itself. This is not the type of democracy that we've fought for. Karen wrote in to Minister Nicolaitis himself, the education minister, said, I can't believe what's happening in Alberta right now. To utilize the notwithstanding clause to order teachers back is totally undemocratic. Furthermore, to impose a contract on them, says, I don't have words. Karen went on to say, as a parent of 3 elementary-aged kids, I'm distraught over classroom conditions. The teachers are literally unable to do their jobs because of class sizes and class complexities. This needs to be addressed right now. Went on, said Karen, to say, these are my main concerns. We fund private schools the most. We fund public schools the least. Earmuffs, kids. The new elementary school curriculum is shit. The teachers were provided with no resources to support the new curriculum. Money spent trying to bribe parents through the strike should have been put towards education. The government consistently demonstrates a lack of respect for teachers and the profession. You're obsessively trying to destroy their union, the ATA, the book bans, attacking LGBTQ plus people. School should be a safe place. Me having to state that my daughters were born with vaginas to play school sports is weird and gross, says Karen. And then she says, plus people being able to question whether or not a girl who plays sports has a vagina is weird, gross, and abusive. And then Karen signs off in true Canadian fashion. I would apologize for the rude tone of this email, but this government has shown this same rudeness toward its citizenry all the time. So sorry, not sorry. That from Karen, CCing us to Minister Nicolaitis. And that's just a portion. That's just a taste of the emails we've received. So this government's been feeling a lot of heat, and we know that to be true. We're going to get to the New York City mayoral race because there's a lot happening there. Plus, we had a great follow-up. If you caught our Friday roundtable, David Keith, who joined us from the University of Chicago, we let him know that we were going to be talking to James Fann the next episode. James is the big cheese at the International CCS Knowledge Center, so the Carbon Capture and Storage Knowledge Center. And we want to have legit conversations, and we want to be able to have, in many circumstances, if guests aren't appearing together, an opportunity for them to press one another. So that's what we invited David to do. He asked a question of James. We played the question to James, and I thought his answer was interesting. So we'll follow up on that. I know some of you may have been looking to that if you caught our Friday episode. It is Tuesday, and every Tuesday we're joining our friends at the Royal Alexandra Hospital Foundation in celebrating a monumental anniversary. It's hard to believe, 125 years. Older than Alberta, by the way. The Royal Alexandra Hospital has been transforming lives These stories that we're sharing are the echoes of the Alex. And every hospital has its heroes, the people who shape its story from the very beginning. And at the Royal Alexandra Hospital, the Allin family were among the first. It all began in 1909 when Dr. Edgar Allin, who was a farmer's son from Ontario, stepped off the train in Edmonton, ready to begin his career as a surgeon in what was then called the Last Best West. So Dr. Edgar Allin joined the brand new hospital, soon to be renamed the Royal Alexandra, and began a lifetime of service that touched patients across Alberta. A year later, his younger brother Norman joined him, a specialist in ENT surgery, and together they brought world-class skill to this young city, just finding his footing. You're seeing there Eardley Allin, who is a highly respected surgeon who followed in their footsteps. Well, guess what? These are their sons. So Edgar and Norman's sons. So after the brothers traveled by rail and car, they're bringing care to cottage hospitals from Jasper to Vegreville. They're operating wherever they were needed. I mean, think about that for a second. Absolutely legendary service provision. Their son's Eardley, a highly respected surgeon who led one of the most complex and historic surgeries ever attempted at the Royal Alex. Johnny, this was the 1949 separation of conjoined twins.
Oh, yeah.
Which was like groundbreaking at the time. Their names, by the way, Brenda and Beverly Townsend. The operation, the first on conjoined twins that were born alive in Canada. And then George Allin also rose to become medical director of the Royal Alexandra Hospital itself. That is 4 Allins, 4 generations of care, each one of them dedicating their lives to the same hospital, the same community, and the same spirit of compassion. In 1934, the Royal Alex nursing students called Edgar the father surgeon of them all. And more than a century later, more than 100 years later, their family's legacy is still echoing through these halls. This is Echoes of the Alex, celebrating 125 years of care, compassion, and community. To honor that legacy and to help continue it, visit givetoroyalalex.org. Either a one-time gift or a monthly gift as we support the next 125 years of care at the Royal Alexandra Hospital. I love this comment from Ms. B in our chat who says, the Royal Alex saved my dad's life. She says it was scary enough when he went in for one stent. Oh, man. Ms. B, we've been there, our family. I know that is just nerve-wracking. He went in for one stent after his heart attack, but they found that he needed 2 stents once they were in there. Ms. B says, I am forever grateful to the Alex. Sharon says that is just amazing history. Let me let you know, Real Talkers, that that feature that you just heard was actually submitted by a Real Talker, which is fantastic. If your family, like Ms. B and others, has an experience that you'd like to share, you can always send us an email. Just put Echoes of the Alex in the subject line to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Big election in New York City today. Hey, the Big Apple. Arguably the world's greatest city.
Yeah, pretty divisive election.
Yeah, that's for sure. So basically, the 2025 New York City mayoral race has been kind of described as like Dancing with the Politicians meets Survivor City Hall, kind of on the tone of it and what's at stake. So on one side, you've got this... do I say a young phenom? I mean, I think it fits. You got Zoran Mandani, this 34-year-old progressive state assemblyman. He's got tech charm, is killing it on social media. This like winning smile, this phenomenal just bing after everything he says, just big smile everywhere. Nightclubs, on the street, grocery stores, meeting with New Yorkers, promising free. Did you see the nightclub photos that came out this weekend? They're hilarious. But promising like free bus rides, a rent freeze, which would be a huge step, a rent freeze. The Business Insider has reported on that. And then you've got kind of the comeback kid in a way that's hoping that people's memories are short. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo now running as an independent after losing his party's primary. The odds probably not in his favor. If you look, Zoran is
November 1st,
the one to beat.
CBS.
So November 1st for the podcast. Why don't you tee this up for people that are listening?
This is just sources Atlas Intel polling. This is on CBS on November 1st in the morning. So you've got Zoran in the lead with 40%. They're projecting Andrew Cuomo second with 34%. And the man with the beret. And
Curtis Sliwa.
I forgot. I was like, what does this mean? Is he ex-military? And you reminded me today, I forgot about this. All the way back in the 70s, they started Guardian Angels on like the transit in New York. And so he's recalling kind of that nostalgia. Maybe he's going for the older voters and kind of showing them that, he's a guardian angel for New York. Curtis Sliwa? Is that it?
Sliwa, that's right.
24%.
Miss Katie says Sliwa is like the Larry Heather in the Calgary mayoral elections, except for Larry Heather gets like 200 votes and Sliwa's polling at like 20%. Yeah. He was, I'll get to what Donald Trump had to say about the election in just a moment, but what about Sliwa? They had him on Fox News. This guy, it's like a 20-second clip, and he got a lot into it. Yeah, so he's appearing on Fox, and he's arguing why he should be the next mayor of New York. Check this out.
Oh.
Yeah, this one was wild.
Put me on the spot.
Okay, yeah. So hang on a second. Some preamble. Here he is.
We're ready.
Eric Adams is damaged goods. Every day, a new case of corruption in the police department. They believe he's corrupt. Andrew Cuomo is a creep, slapping fannies and killing grannies. Everybody likes Curtis Sliwa. My favorable ratings are the highest.
Okay, so slapping fannies and killing grannies.
Oh, man.
Of course, alluding to something that's no laughing matter, which is what chased Andrew Cuomo out of politics in the first place. And then you've got President Donald Trump. Who, I'm going to go apples, oranges here, so forgive me for a second. Trump didn't love it when Ontario started interfering in American politics, but you got the President of the United States definitely looking to influence the New York City mayoral race. And here's what he posted to his Truth Social account just a short time ago. Any other president, can you imagine this? If communist candidate Zoran Mamdani wins the election for mayor of New York City, it is highly unlikely that I will be contributing federal funds. Biggest city in the United States, one of the greatest cities in the world, other than the very minimum as required, says Trump, to my beloved first home, because of the fact that as a communist, this once great city has a zero chance of success or even survival. It can only get worse with a communist at the helm, and I don't want to send as president good money after bad. It's my obligation to run the nation, my strong conviction that New York City will be a total, strong, or it'll rather be a total and complete and total economic and social disaster. His principles have been tested for over 1,000 years, and never once have they been successful. He says, I'd rather much see a Democrat who has a record of success win than a communist with no experience and a record of complete and total failure. He says, whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, says Trump, you really have no choice. You must vote for him and hope he does a fantastic job. He is capable of it. Mamdani is not.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hear some of the Zorhan stuff, and I don't agree with it. But like some of the things, and I'll probably get reamed in the chat for this. But I mean, would you rather see free public transit or more bike lanes, Edmontonians? I mean, free public transit that we as taxpayers pay for doesn't sound like that bad of an idea. And people keep coming out and saying, Zorhan, taxpayers have to pay for that. Well, obviously, it's a public service. I don't think, especially in New York, man, I mean, we don't use transit one iota as much as New Yorkers need it. You cannot drive
you can't even compare
anywhere in New York. People are talking about, like, because this has spurred a big debate online, obviously, on X and everything. Their commutes, not just out of the city. Even if you live in the city, it takes you an hour and a half to get to work with traffic. So I don't think that's such a bad thing. Rent freezes, kind of pie in the sky to me. I'm hot and cold on it because, yeah, you can freeze, but how long? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? As soon as you remove that freeze, which you're going to have to, landlords are not going to do what you say. They're going to go up to whatever price it should have been at over the 3 or 4 or 5 years you froze it. So some good ideas, some bad ideas, but it's not up to us. It's up to New Yorkers, right?
Yeah. So this is going to be, a lot of the themes in this election will hold true. By the way, Ms. B followed up and said, Ms. Katie said, I should clarify my Larry Heather comment was that he turns up for every election to lose, like Sliwa, sure. I've now talked about Larry Heather more in the last 5 minutes than I've talked about him in the last 5 years. This Larry Heather, by the way, absolutely, he's condemned me to hell. I'm not sure if you saw his public post a few years ago. He actually condemned me in a public post. He condemned me to the lake of fire, which I haven't slept right since. There you have it on that. Gilles is in the chat in all caps, says public transit and bike lanes both
True.
save municipal
What I was saying is that I think more here in Edmonton, I can't speak for New Yorkers, but I would think it would be the same in New York that, they would opt for free public transit over more bike lanes. Or if you allocated, half of the money they use on bike lanes towards free public transit. I know there's people who live in Edmonton, in New York, outside the city, who would love to be able to get on the bus and not have to pay every day and take that out of their living fees. That would be, it just sounds like a good idea to me. I don't know. Am I crazy?
Well, I mean, you never know how these municipal elections are going to turn out, right? I mean, like Calgary's was a total nail biter, and we've got now Real Talk Live chatter Jeremy Farkas in the mayor's office. In Edmonton, a pretty convincing win for Andrew Knack, the new mayor of Edmonton. His supporters obviously saw that one coming, but I think it was up in the air for a long time. You had some really interesting developments there. And it all comes down to what's the voters' top priority and who do they believe is the person that can build consensus and improve their living situation, right? So in New York, they're looking at affordability in housing. Obviously, that's a huge one.
Have you seen, I just went and looked before you go on, not to interrupt you, but just on what, 1,000 square foot, 800, 500, all these shoebox apartments cost in New York. I have no idea how anyone's living there. I don't get it. I told you I was hoping that hosting that Hope International Gala this weekend at Edmonton's Convention Center. Thanks to everybody that turned out there, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for this amazing NGO. You can check out hope-international.org if you want to learn more about it. But their leadership team was in from Vancouver, and we started chatting. One of them, just small talk. One of them had just bought a condo, she and her fiance, and a conversation can go, I'm never one to ask cost and never one to ask price. But you're wondering.
But you're always curious. And she works for a nonprofit, and I was kind of like, how are they affording? Like, I just was trying to figure it out, right? And she started sharing, and it's she and her fiance together. They have the dual income. They have no kids, and they were able to really stretch into one of Vancouver's bedroom communities, right? So they're out in New West, there's beautiful places in New West, but these prices that people are looking at are absolutely nuts. She says, well, let me tell you this. She said my previous place she was renting was 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom basement suite. She said with sorry for anybody that's eating breakfast or just trying to enjoy yourselves, generally speaking, while you're listening to this. She said there was a real mouse problem. So that's one thing. And I go, so what are you looking at? Yeah, in Vancouver, it could be rats too. But she says, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, basement suite with a mouse problem. $2,700 a month.
Jesus. So now let's compare that.
And that's not in downtown.
No. And let's compare that to New York. So we're talking about downtown. Average price, 1 bed, 1 bath. And that can mean different things. If you're talking about a studio, it's a little less. And the studios, Ryan, I went and looked at some of these pictures. Some of these studios are like literal closet areas. Your sink and your toilet, there's no door. It's just right out there. But anyways, average cost right now downtown to live in a 1 bed, 1 bath is $4,380 American.
That's your after-tax income.
It's crazy.
So you're basically right off the top, the first of every month, you're ponying up. Put it this way, you're paying $50,000 US a year for a 1 bed, 1 bath apartment. And that's not the penthouse. That's not on Fifth Avenue, right? It's just, it's hard to imagine how people are able to make it work. A lot of you were pointing out, you say if you take cars out of the mix, a lot of you saying New Yorkers, a lot of New Yorkers don't even get their driver's licenses. There's a totally different culture there. That's 100% true. It's if you ever been to London, England, you just use the tube. You almost don't, you wouldn't even want a car.
Same in Vancouver. A lot of people don't have licenses there. A lot of people bike or take the transit. So you mentioned specific boroughs. I'm just talking about New York, the edges there. If you go to places that are specific where people want to live, where, hoity-toity areas or places where people just want culture, all that stuff. I mean, that's everywhere in New York. Let's be honest, if you've ever been there. But Manhattan specifically goes up to $5,600 for a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So
$5,600.
That is wild.
USD. Yeah, no, that is wild. I mean, what is that in Canadian? That's probably $8,000. It's $7,500, I bet.
Yeah,
a month, and that's not a mortgage payment. That's rent.
My buddy's in Brooklyn right now. Shout out DJ Alize. He goes down there. He's got a girlfriend who lives there. She lives in the smallest little shoebox ever, but he goes there and he's like, you know what he says to me, and I tend to agree with him because of the pictures and video he sends back to me. He's like, you know what? It is a lot to live here, but you get a lot for every borough has art, culture, nightlife, diversity, everyone's speaking every different language, the food. I mean, it's everything. You get everything for what you
And
get.
I would say the same thing. I'm not comparing the cities, but I would say the same thing about Vancouver. There's a ton of benefits
California
to being in
as
Vancouver.
well. People rag on California, but when you live in a state like California and people want to say, oh, it's a mess. Is it? You've got desert, you've got forest, you've got mountains, you've got all the best art, culture in the world goes to California. So, I mean, these places, there's a reason you're paying top dollar.
Yeah. Scarlett is absolutely right. Says, you guys, we have $2,000 a month basement suites here. We might still be, quote, affordable, but not to everybody. 100% true. Affordable is relative, right? We can say affordable housing. A lot of people have pointed out that it's a bit of a misleading phrase because when you imply that housing is affordable to whom, right?
We've talked about that.
Neola says they do have driver's licenses, a lot of New Yorkers, but they just rent cars like we can rent scooters like by the hour. Yeah, we see some of the car shares here, but I wouldn't say they've like manifested themselves into every person's everyday routine. Neola, great point. Les says over half of New Yorkers have never smelled cut grass. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. How about this from Aaron, who says we had 2 kids in Toronto. We never once owned a car. And DJ Alize is watching us right now and says, well, thanks for thanks for the shout out, Johnny. Just got back from NYC last night.
He's there. He goes out like every other month. And man, I'm always like, man, how do you do it? Like, how does she live out there? How do you do it? And he just always reverts back to, man, I come back inspired. That's how incredible the city is. Like, you walk around and you just get inspired. And from the stuff he shows me, I believe it too. So I believe there is, there's a reason people pay top dollar to live in places like New York, LA, places like that. But then again, if you come back to our area, Alberta, I agree with you, when these infills, and I know we're going to get to the arson and stuff pretty soon here, so this is kind of a transition, but when you're building these huge infills with, high cost condos, I get it. When rent is $2,000, $2,200, $2,600, $2,900, you may think that's not affordable housing, but we have to look at all the aspects here. When you live in one of those things, I mean, you don't pay taxes on land. You don't pay your heat. Sometimes the utilities are combined, right? So there's ways you can save. So when I think about those areas, I think of like, I always go back to this. Single mom, maybe wants to be close to a good school, wants to be able to walk her dog at a park 2 blocks away, wants a little bit of a safer area, and wants her bills for the most part combined. Maybe they think $2,600 is better than paying a mortgage.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta, like, for a lot of people, it's just what works best for your family. I've shared in past, like when we first moved up to Edmonton 20 years ago, it's like I had seen the boom in Calgary and whatever that was. I mean, the first boom. Or one of the first booms in a while. I keep qualifying it because there's been journeys over the years. But, 03, 04, 05, where all of a sudden condos, same thing was happening in Canmore. Condos went from like $75,000 to like $225,000. And then I moved to Red Deer and I saw single detached houses go from like $125,000 to like $275,000, $300,000. Anybody that's listening from Vancouver, Toronto right now is going like, oh my gosh, trying to wrap their minds around these prices. So then we move up to Edmonton in 06, and I'm like, I'm not going to make the same mistake twice or thrice. I'm not going to rent in Edmonton. I'm going to guaranteed buy. Well, we buy at the height. We buy just right at the top in December of 06 and end up selling that condo earlier this year, 20 years later, for like $120,000 less than we paid for it. So like, it doesn't work out all the time for everybody. And in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, gosh, I should have just rented when we moved to Edmonton. But, especially if your mindset is where a lot of people have been telling us, your storage of wealth or your biggest investment should be, which is in your home or in real estate. And a lot of people strongly believe that. And a lot of people are just chasing that carrot all the time. Young families are key, young professionals, as an example, people all doing everything they can to make home ownership attainable. Mm-hmm. And in particular with the housing crunch and a lot of the factors that are in play across the country right now, home ownership is less and less attainable with every passing year.
A lot of people are just thinking, and I'm of this mindset, I still rent. I don't know if we were talking about this the other day. I could probably go get approved for a mortgage, but like, all my other costs are going to increase, right? So, I mean, right now, renting seems like the reasonable thing to do. And I get it. It's not for everyone. Everyone wants to have some form of backup, equity in a home, some form but again, we've talked about this in the chat. I don't really like having a home as backup or property or value. It just doesn't seem right to me. If I want a home, it's because I want a backyard for my dog to run around in, or because I have a kid and I want him next to school.
Sure.
It's not an investment for me to make money later.
Yeah. Aren't you so glad that you weren't talking shit about Alize, not knowing that he was live watching the live stream? He's back in the chat here. He says to live comfortably. We love Ali, obviously.
Yeah, tell us about
He says in a clean place, and so he specifies in a clean place. Says it's easily $6,000 to $7,000 US a month. He says I keep trying to wrap my mind around trying to get a place down there, but it just never makes sense. So New Yorkers are looking at that, but that's
Brooklyn. People want to live in Brooklyn.
Trendy. Yeah. But so they're going to be voting on affordability and housing. They're going to be voting on public safety and crime, which is maybe where some of Sliwa's votes are coming from with his guardian angel history. Transportation and infrastructure, which is obviously huge. You're talking about one of the world's great cities, economic opportunity and jobs, and then leadership, trust, and institutional credibility. There's been controversy around the office of the mayor in different contexts for many, many years, and this is no exception.
Before we get off the New York stuff and transition, you want to throw this bet up?
This was wild, hey? What do you make about this? So this was pretty crazy to see. So again, not recommending that you make this bet yourself, friends. But this was a bet that was placed. A polymarket trader. This was yesterday. So the day before the election on the 3rd of November, a polymarket trader bet $25,000 that Andrew Cuomo will win the New York mayoral election. And at the time they placed the bet, the way that the odds were, it's the user's first trade, by the way. If they're correct, they'll win $459,000. $500,000. But the odds are not in Cuomo's favor.
No.
So put it that way. Want to get this arson story? We don't have a lot to say about it because it's under investigation right now, but it should be on our radar. Plus, we wanted to get you some follow-up. We always want to be big on follow-up here. We recognize not every single Real Talker can catch every single episode, but this was an important element of our Friday episode. We paid it out on Monday, and we wanted to put that on your radar. Before we get there, we want to remind you at North Road Investment Council, they're dealing with discerning families. They're working with and assisting private clients and institutions, many of them that are asking the same question, and that is that if most mutual funds don't keep up with their benchmark, why not just own the benchmark, right? Like research from S&P in 2024 shows that more than 80% of Canadian equity mutual funds underperform the index that they track. At North Road Investment Council, they build customized passive portfolios that are designed to capture index returns while still respecting your values and preferences. They know at North Road Investment Council that some of you, may need to exclude companies that you're connected to as an executive. Or you don't want to invest in like guns or tobacco in your portfolio. Or maybe you want to design your holdings for greater tax efficiency. For families and institutions with around $2 million or more to invest, North Road Investment Council is creating fully customized factor portfolios within Canada and the U.S. At North Road, they're celebrating the fact that markets are competitive. It's not a bad thing. You can reach out to their team at northroadic.com today to learn more about how they can construct your custom portfolio. Hey, talking about constructing custom masterpieces, that's what California Closets does every single day, and they've earned the reputation. Let me tell you a story, John. I was sitting at a local watering hole after the Hope Gala this Saturday, and I connected with our pal Cam, who owns California Closets. So at a local watering hole, the bartender says to him, "What do you do?" And he says, "Oh, I own an outfit called California Closets." And the bartender stopped in her tracks and turned around and said, "You're the California Closets guy?" And I just smiled. Everybody knows California Closets, best in the business with custom closets and storage solutions for the entire home. Everything that they install is built in Alberta. The company is Canadian owned, and your first consultation with their designer is always free. There's no risk. To connect with their team and find out how they can transform your space and work with your budget, you can request that free consultation today at californiaclosets.ca. Our friends at Solar by Kuby experiencing record-setting growth as they celebrate 10 years in business. And The team at Kubi, one of the things they really pride themselves on, this is a company that was built by engineers and electricians, not salespeople. And so they're very proud of the efficiency and the technical excellence of each of their installations, whether it's a huge one like a fire hall or a convention center, maybe it's an industrial application, or maybe it's a residence just like yours. The team at Kubi is the best in the biz with integrated renewable solutions, including solar, carbon offsets, utility solutions too. You can check them out and get a free solar quote today by visiting kuby.ca. That's KUBY.ca. And Pathways Alliance, we're going to be talking about the oil sands in just a moment. This is 6 of Canada's largest oil sands companies working together, of course, to address where global demand is at, not just with energy, but with environmental performance as well. That includes environmental innovation and projects like carbon capture and storage. You can learn more about the Pathways Alliance initiative and learn a little bit more about the economic impact of Canada's oil sands, producing much more than just oil, by visiting their website. That's pathwaysalliance.ca. A wild story, a real talker by the name of Orla reached out to us. She's a lawyer, and she said, I just want to make sure that this is on your radar. This is just a gut-wrenching story. And, John, we're just going to say right out of the gates, I'm going to say we're going to be careful about what we say about this, but we're going to limit our comments on this because these are crimes, alleged crimes under investigation right now. We have no proof, and anything that we would say would be speculation. But Edmonton fire investigators have confirmed that a minimum of 6 different residential infill construction fires in a number of weeks are being investigated as arsons. And these are in some of, if you ask me, and not that it matters where it is, but we're talking about some of the most magnificent and some of the most desirable neighborhoods in Alberta's Metro Edmonton region, including along Saskatchewan Drive. That was when Edmonton Fire and Rescue Services were called Sunday at about 11 o'clock p.m. They had been called to the area previously about 5 minutes prior. It took firefighters about an hour and a half to get that fire under control, officially declaring it extinguished at about 10 to 4 in the morning on Monday. This was a couple, obviously, that was getting set to move out of that house, absolutely distraught. But firefighters have confirmed that other fires that they've looked into, as mentioned, this is a minimum of 6 of them, including in the beautiful neighborhood as well of Belgravia, are also being investigated as arsons. These are partially, in most circumstances, including the neighborhood of Glenora as well. Anybody that knows Edmonton or lives in Edmonton knows that Glenora is certainly a beautiful and highly desired, a high-value neighborhood, if you want to call it that. It's also one of the neighborhoods, Glenora, Belgravia, Strathcona, Saskatchewan Drive, that have seen infill investment. We know that this is certainly polarizing, but what strikes me as interesting about this, there's many interesting things, and let's say number one, these are people's homes, some of them unoccupied, but there have been impacts on occupied residences next door. One of the fires, I think it was the Belgravia one, spread to 2 other homes, massive liabilities, including human life, also the lives of firefighters that are bravely fighting these fires, and in many cases, if they believe that there's people inside, entering these structures. These are not like the 6-plexes. These are not the 8-plexes. These are like, as you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, well, these are single family dwellings for the most part. Mm-hmm. It's what they appear to be, and it's so I think that we can't draw conclusions on what this is. I have to guess, and Edmonton City Councilor Michael Jans went on the record less than 24 hours ago and basically said the same thing. He says, I don't think that really, or he said, I'm paraphrasing, he'd like to believe that there's no opponent of density or infill that feels so strongly that they're going to start torching houses and putting human lives at risk, because that's exactly what's happening here. Human lives are being put at risk.
Sure.
But you have to wonder if this is a beef between developers. You have to wonder if there's something deeper at play here. There have been some allegations and some investigations in the city of Edmonton on certain groups, in particular ethnic groups, that have been targeting and intimidating one another. And there have been turf wars at play. Van Fashions is pointing out there's also been fires in Strathern, fires in Bonnie Doon. So this is absolutely nuts. And something that's certainly troubling. We don't have a lot to offer right now as the investigation's underway, and it's all speculation at this point, but it's sickening to see, number one, the risk to residents, number two, obviously the risk to firefighters, and then the huge and total loss, the inconvenience for the families, the devastating nature of these fires, in particular homes that were really nearing completion of construction or at the completion stage. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Well, I don't want to use the word interesting, but to see who's responsible, because I agree with you. Like, of course, depending on how you feel about infills, you immediately think, oh, these are these ethnic groups again, or these are people who are, adverse or, against infills. But you look at some of the pictures, like it's single, double, quadruple, like none of these are, if they were 16 plexes, 8 plexes, 10 whatever, then I'd be like, okay, it's obvious who's doing this, but it's not that. And then I don't think we can also just rule out like crazy people, arsonists, maybe even younger people
for sure
who are just, know that this is an issue in the city and are just taking advantage and having some weird, evil fun. I don't know, but we don't know anything right now. So
yeah, fire investigation is a very specific science.
Yeah,
and of course there's mapping at play, and they'll be paying attention to this. But if you know Edmonton, the neighborhoods we're mentioning, they're not exactly next to one another. It's not like somebody's running around and coming back to a central place. Yeah. They're all over the place, and the only thing that they have in common is that they're infills. Scarlett says we also, don't forget insurance fraud isn't anything new, says this could be an inside job. I mean, it could be,
but
for
all
sure.
Different areas, all different
areas, different homes. Different. Well, I don't know if it's different developers.
Maybe they're targeting the same one.
Well, I would imagine. And again, I don't want to be irresponsible here in our commentary, and I only want to talk to you about what we know at this point.
Sure.
But Edmonton Fire Rescue and fire investigators, obviously, they'd be working with police on this one too. An EPS spokesperson in an email to Post Media said that at least over the weekend, 4 of the fires had been determined to be arson. Quote, I can say, said this spokesperson, this was Staff Sergeant Heather Morrison, Acting Staff Sergeant Heather Morrison. They are all infill under construction properties. We recognize, said EPS, the community's concerned about these fires in their neighborhood, as you obviously would be, and said we want to assure them that this investigation is a top priority for our team. EPS increasing proactive patrols in affected communities, working closely with community partners to help prevent further occurrences. I'm not trying to, sort of fear factor anything here. I'm not trying to make anybody nervous, if there's no reason to be nervous. But I'm just saying, if you live in any of these neighborhoods or a central Edmonton neighborhood, and there's an infill project right next to you or anywhere near you, are you going to be watching your street a little bit more vigilantly or a little bit more diligently than you otherwise would? I think that it's probably safe to say that you would. Mm-hmm. You can always let us know what you think about this to talk@ryanjesperson.com. If I know anything, Sharon says that's a lot of houses for some sort of a scam. I would say if I know anything about this audience, there will be someone that hears this or someone that's watching this on YouTube that has been impacted by this or knows somebody that is, and we want to invite you to send us your thoughts anytime to talk@ryanjesperson.com. There are a couple of other things that we wanted to get to, and that includes a follow-up that we had. So on our Friday roundtable, we were focusing on energy, the environment, and the economy, the intersection there, and a fantastic conversation with Sarah Hastings-Simon from the University of Calgary, Ed Whittingham, who, by the way, just has a voice cut out for podcasting, doesn't he? Yeah. But Ed, formerly of the Alberta Energy Regulator, and I think his reputation speaks for itself. He's been a wonderful friend of the show. And then David Keith, who joined us from the University of Chicago. And they're talking about how Canada needs to catch up. And Johnny, I'm just going to go straight to the James Fann clip here. So I'm going to go straight to our clip from yesterday. You can check out our Friday roundtable clip on our YouTube channel. You can check it out on all of our social media channels. You'll see the 3 of them talking about how Canada's lagging behind in matters of energy security in particular, the environment, and the economy. And it was a really great as far as I was concerned, a middle-of-the-road conversation, not partisan, not extreme perspectives, just middle-of-the-road pragmatic solutions to what they would like to see, in particular in this federal budget and beyond. But David Keith in particular, you're about to hear from him here. We let David know, and this guy's a lecturer and a professor at the University of Chicago whose career in biochemical engineering speaks for itself, his entrepreneurial career as well, really impressive. We let him know that James Fann was going to be joining us the next episode to talk about carbon capture. Carbon capture is huge for proponents of net zero, including this federal government. They'll say that the carbon capture is integral to Canada's net zero future. And then those that are cynical say, well, either, it's ineffective, it's way too expensive, it's just not something that we should be pouring public money into. We knew that David would want to put a question in front of James, and so that's exactly what we manifested. What you're about to hear is David's question for James, asked on our Friday episode, and James answering on Monday's episode, our most recent. Here it is. We did ask David when we were promoting your appearance on the show. During his appearance on the show, we wanted to give him an opportunity to ask you a question directly about carbon capture and storage, and here's what David wanted you to answer.
How much will this really protect the ability of us to extract money from the Alberta oil business to fuel whatever's next in Alberta? I mean, at some level, let's just come down to it. Let's forget about the environment. This is being done from the point of view of the industry to protect the industry. Can you really talk about how much it's actually going to make Alberta oil sell more?
I think it's really, it's a good question by David. It's very fair, but I don't think carbon capture is really about selling oil. It's lowering the emissions intensity. So we already have one of the lowest emissions intensities oil in the world. And I think the ability to lower that even further and create infrastructure that enables an industry to reduce CO2 is very important. And I think we know, and your guest had alluded to this, is we know that oil and gas is going to be around for decades. So I always like to think about it as an insurance or a hedge or an option if you end up seeing accelerated global policy or cost on it. And so making sure that we have the ability to continue to extract value, because energy is so important, and all these other exports such as cement and fertilizer and steel are so important to our country and our country's economy right across Canada. Having a bit of insurance to be able to participate in it is super important. And then you're even further, like as I talked about earlier, you're protecting these skills and expertise. So when you think about, engineers and geologists and, welders, pipe fitters, electricians, all these industries that we're competing for workers globally, for people who are building data centers, nuclear power plants. Bringing those jobs and keeping them here is super important.
So that's James Fann, who's over at the International CCS, Carbon Capture and Storage Knowledge Center, responding to David's question. White Truman in our chat says carbon capture needs to be there for things like concrete, for example, but not for extending the life of oil and gas operations. And so you see, different folks will have different opinions on it. I thought that both interviews, I loved the Friday Roundtable. 3 people way smarter than me. I feel like I learned about 30 things just listening to them. That's kind of the case every time that Sarah or Ed or David are on. It was David's debut. The other 2 have been on before, let alone together. And then James with an interesting counterpoint. And James is not speaking on behalf of the oil and gas industry per se. He's talking about carbon capture writ large. And so he did, like Whitrum, for example, noting concrete. He talked about that in a big way. And there are many different applications. Have a listen to that interview. That was on our Monday episode, our most recent episode. That was the 3rd of November. And let us know what you think to talk at ryanjesperson.com.
And yeah, I mean, this is something that, it's hard for conservatives to rally against this because our premier is in favor of carbon capture. She thinks it will allow our industry to continue to produce, our bread and butter. So
yeah, and conservative premiers in Alberta have looked to carbon capture as an exportable technology for a long time. What's particularly interesting about it is that you've had the support of the federal Liberal government through at least the past two prime ministers. Certainly, as mentioned yesterday, I remember Trudeau on talking about it. I remember former Minister Randy Boissonnault, the first one, talking about it. And then I also, of course, on the 10th of September, Mark Carney talked about it here too. So you have, conservative and federal Liberal support on it. Obviously, for the Liberals, it's something that, when you have to extend that olive branch to Alberta and you're looking to convince the prairie provinces, Alberta in particular, that the feds have their back in what is typically a pretty hostile environment for the federal Liberal government, that's going to be a big one for them.
Yeah, and I'll just say I'm a little iffy on whether it's effective, but it does seem to be most effective when you're using it for large industry, chemicals and steel and obviously oil and gas. So if it helps in those areas, let's use it. But we're a little iffy on whether over time it's overall really effective in helping the environment, I guess, right? Yeah. Which is what I think the main reason. I mean, most people want it so industry can continue doing what they're doing. But for me, when I originally heard about carbon capture, I'm like, oh my God, this fixes the world's problems. But I don't think it's not like a silver bullet. But yeah.
Speaking of the environment, you caught me.
The glass of the sass.
So you caught me just
show everybody.
You caught me just enjoying. You caught
Look
me just
how clear
enjoying
it is.
A glass of the sass.
I can see your poppy right through the clearness
look
of
at that. We better not bring Remembrance Day into this one. Why not, though? If there's things to be proud of. Yeah. No, I'm not gonna get cute about Remembrance Day, but I will say this. The Glass of the Sass campaign is something we're really proud to be. You guys have seen that we have the, in addition to this beautiful Henson whiskey on our table, we've got our Glass of the Sass on the table as well. And all of our Real Talk guests, including the Prime Minister, by the way, the first thing he did, sat down and had a nice
Took
glass
a sip of the Sask.
We're proud to serve Edmonton's award-winning tap water, Edmonton's award-winning water that comes straight from the North Saskatchewan River right into our studio in the historic Mercer Warehouse in downtown Edmonton. Of course, Edmonton's award-winning water, an essential resource that shaped more than a century ago and continues to sustain our city through local cuisine, eco floats, and summer events. Embrace our connection to the river and our great tasting tap water. Enjoy a refreshing glass of the Sask today. It's fascinating when you start to read about Edmonton's water source, and we can be so proud of it. You know that there's water travels 300 kilometers to reach Edmonton. Less than 3% of Edmonton's river, North Saskatchewan, comes from glaciers. Did you know that? Less than 3%. The average Edmontonian, wrap your mind around this, uses 160 liters of water daily. Over 1 million people are served. 4,400 water lines delivering water in Edmonton, and there's more than 200 water quality parameters that are tested. It is literally award-winning water. You go, come on, everybody says that. I've seen award-winning podcaster, I've seen award-winning this, that, or the other. No, the best tasting glass of tap water in Western Canada, Edmonton's Glass of the Sass, claimed this title at the 2025 Western Canada Water Conference.
Yeah, and
how cool is that?
I was never one to drink tap water, man. Coming from Ontario where it wasn't that good. Sorry to my Ontarians, but and I officially made the switch 2 weeks ago. This morning, I went and got my greens powder, put it in my little tumbler, and I went right to tap water, which I have not done in so long. So this whole campaign is opening my eyes to that. Hey,
I think it's fantastic.
We
it's
can
something to be
drink
really
tap
proud
water
of.
here.
It's something to be really proud of.
You don't need to buy a $90 Brita and new filters every 3 months anymore.
I love this from Vamp Fashion. It says, I mentioned Edmonton winning a taste award for water. And those that I was talking to from Texas and Georgia were jealous as all get out. As much as Texas wants our water, they cannot have it. Yeah. I love it. Dave says, I drink a lot of tap water. Me too. It's how I was raised.
I'm into it now.
I think it's because do I start talking about the Alberta advantage? One of them is our tap water, and in particular, this Glass of the Sass, so we're really proud about that. All right, as we wrap, I just wanted to let you guys know the next episode of Real Talk, this is where the rubber's really going to hit the road. We'll see the budget a few hours after we do this live stream. Thanks to everybody who's checked out the podcast. Boy, do we ever appreciate you. And then in our feature interviews presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West, first comprehensive budget analysis from our friends at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. We'll zoom out with the Alberta Chambers of Commerce, talking jobs, the economy, and the bottom line. Send us your feedback anytime to talk@ryanjesperson.com.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, Account Coordinator Lawrence Derlego. Human Resources Lena Shepard. Website Design Mike Johnston. Voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Member Emerita Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.